This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 8 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. We explore the ideas and dreams behind some of the leading entrepreneurs from around the world. Along the way, we will give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Our guest on today's episode is Hendon. More about Aaron in a moment. On Thursday's episode, I'm going to share some practical steps and reasons why you need to understand about you, your identity, and what you believe, and how that will set you up for success or failure through your journey of chasing that big idea and being a dreamer. It's going to be super fun, so make sure to check back this Thursday for that very fun episode. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to make sure you know where you can find us. You can find us in all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts. Places like Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, swing on over to jumblethink.com/podcast to find links to many of the best places to connect. Don't forget to find us on your favorite places to listen to podcasts and click on that subscribe or follow button so you'll never miss another great episode of the Jumblethink Podcast. Now let's jump into today's episode with Hendon. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward, and I am your host. Super excited about today's guest. His name is Hendon. Let's learn a little bit more about Aaron.
My name is Hendon, and my business is Rational Real Estate Professionals, and I am the founder, CEO, and chief everything officer of that business. My business is basically residential real estate and empowering people around the choices they make in buying or selling their homes. It started about 5 years ago. My dream and when I realized this was for me was about 5 years ago. I decided to make the leap into residential real estate and discovered that I love helping people with that decision. Love helping people with that process. The place where I find the most fulfillment and purpose in what I do is when I encounter someone who's truly open to being educated in the process of buying or selling their home, and they really are in they like the discovery of it. You know, I mean, buying or selling your home is the single largest investment you're ever going to make, and when people are open to learning about the process so they make a rational decision, it's just so fulfilling when they really do own the decision for themselves. I love that. What I do matters because buying or selling a home happens infrequently, maybe once every 10 years. And every time it happens, it's the most expensive thing that you are buying or selling. And to empower people in that choice and to give people a rational platform on which to make that decision matters. It makes a difference for people, for them to be solid, confident, have peace of mind around that kind of a decision. The biggest challenge that I'm working to overcome in my business is the context that most people operate in, where they are human beings by default don't want to have to think too hard. It's not an insult. That's just math. That's the way the brain is wired. That's the biomechanics of the brain, is to not have to think about things. And I'm fighting against that urge to not think about things because this is the most expensive transaction in people's lives. I'd like them to think about it. I think it's important that they think about it. And yet, from their perspective, they don't want to think about it. That's the biggest challenge, is how to overcome that. I'd like to be able to become a national resource for people who are looking to buy or sell their home, so that are looking to get educated, that are willing to overcome that challenge we just spoke about. I'd like to do that on a national level.
We'll be right back with our interview with Hendon. Today's show is brought to you by FreshBooks.com. Get a free 30-day trial at www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. That's www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. Now let's jump into today's interview with Hendon. Aaron, I am super excited to have you on today's episode of the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Now, first off, you're in the Northwest Pacific, right? You're in
Correct.
Seattle.
I am.
Cool.
I live
Beautiful up there.
yeah, it's beautiful. I live on a small island, actually off the coast of Seattle. So
Wow.
when people are unfamiliar with the area, I tell them I live on a small island in the Pacific. It's not quite accurate, but it's close enough for jazz. And
That's cool.
yeah,
That's
makes
really cool.
makes me feel very exotic.
Yeah, for sure. I've been up there several times. I love that region. It is absolutely stunning and inspirational at so many levels.
Yeah, I love it. It just really feels like home.
We've got a lot to talk about. You are an expert in the world of real estate and thinking outside the norm of real estate. But first, I want to step back several years and talk a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship, because you didn't start out as a real estate agent. You didn't start out as an expert in real estate. Long ago, you got the inspiration for entrepreneurship from your dad. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, sure. My dad, when I was very young, was vice president of sales at a clothing manufacturer, but had a passion for photography. And, he quit his job as a VP of sales and making a really good salary at the time. This is the 60s. Late, probably early 70s. And, he's got 4 kids, but he has a passion for photography and he wants to start his own business. So he works it out and, takes the leap and starts his own business and did very, very, very well for himself, very well for us. And so from that time, I had a role model for what it's like to step out. And it really never occurred to me to go work in corporate America. Never wanted to do that. It was not a thing. Now, it just was just brilliant for me to have that sort of space around it. So that's really where it started.
That's cool. And your journey into what you're doing today, it didn't start out in real estate. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and the different spaces that you've kind of explored, and then how you ended up in the world of real estate.
Sure. Well, I like to think that I reinvent myself apparently I reinvent myself every 10 years is the way it turns out.
Right.
And I think it's, important for people to know that, I don't know. I like to look at it like nothing I commit to, I'm not committing to forever. I mean, I got married, so that's forever. But other than that, I'm really not, everything else is just what's next. And, so I went to art school, right, and graduated art school with a Bachelor of Fine Art degree, which made me eligible to work in the food service industry anywhere in the country. I could take my Bachelor of Fine Art degree and get a waiting job anywhere. And I did. I waited tables in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Wow. And moved to Albuquerque with my girlfriend. And one day the baker quit in the restaurant. And being an art school grad, I knew how to bake because all art school grads learn how to bake. And it's very bohemian. And so I started baking in the restaurant, and I found that I loved it and I could do it. I could do it well. I won a couple of blue ribbons at the New Mexico State Fair, and then raised capital and started a bakery. And it was very fun and very successful, and had a really good time doing that. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship. It was like, I loved that. I loved creating that business. And, at some point in there, I hired a business coach, and the business coach recommended that I do a course called the Landmark Forum. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's a 3-day, 1-evening transformational educational seminar. And it all sounded like West Coast mojo woo-woo nonsense to me. I'm from New York, so everything sounds like that. But I did it. I did it in 1994, and the thing blew my mind. I thought, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I can't believe this exists. This is the coolest thing in my life. I had never seen anything like it. So, in 2000, I sold my business and I went to work for that company. I went to work for Landmark, and I did that for 11 years. And then during that 11 years, I had 2 kids. I was married at that point, and moved to Seattle with Landmark, and decided to move on because the hours weren't as flexible as I wanted them to be. And I took a couple of different sales positions. I took a sales position at a tech startup, and that was a ton of fun. But they moved to New York, and I was done with New York, so needed to take some other jobs. And I took a couple of odd jobs, and eventually wound up with, all right, I have a lot of my friends said I'd make it in real estate. And I was like, I don't know, maybe whatever. It didn't really appeal to me. But the more I talked about it, the more obvious it was that it was a viable path for me. And, and I wound up talking to a friend who's a realtor. And I said, okay, I'm ready to join your team now. And she said, well, I don't have a team. And I said, well, you do now have a team. I'm your team. Here we go. You're going to train me. And she did. And that was about 5 years ago. And I love it. Real estate is the best for me because it's both entrepreneurial. You can do whatever you want. There's a million ways to get business. There's a million ways to run your business. You can do anything you want. And you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not starting Uber. You don't have to talk people into, no, this is going to be really great. It's called a house. You should get one. No one has to be taught that, and the business models, the way to get business, the way to generate, all of that stuff's been written. So it's both totally malleable and all the mechanics are already done for you. It's the best of both possible worlds. I love it.
So many of your adventures, so many of the different things you've experimented with weren't coming from the standpoint of, I know this because I've been taught this a specific way and everything like that. It was from exploring and questioning the status quo. Tell us a little bit about how you approach a problem. Whereas a lot of people look at it as a very clinical, this is the way you're supposed to do it. You come in and come up with solutions and rethink the norm to better solve issues that trouble us, like buying a house.
I just, it's one of the things that, you could say all my background from art school to the forum to whatever else, just being a general jerk about stuff, contrarian. Sorry, not a jerk, a contrarian. It's a much more civilized name for a jerk, right? Oh, I'm a contrarian. Yes, it's a great word, right? I'm a Bitcoin contrarian. I just, whatever. On one hand, it's that I don't know enough about it to toe the party line, that I don't need to toe the party line because I think it's a huge advantage not being tied down to the way it quote unquote supposed to be done. So I'm always looking for, and it's funny, Michael, I think anyone listening and you can relate to this. I always look at it as an entrepreneur, my job is to look at life through the eyes of the consumer of my product. What does it look like for them? The lie in being a business owner is that you work for yourself. The truth in being a business owner is you work for the customer. You work for every single customer. You don't work for yourself.
Yeah.
So what does the customer see? And when I started to take apart residential real estate from the perspective of what does a customer see, it shocked me because what the customer sees and what's really happening are so radically different. It just so didn't work for me.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me that the customers really didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for me that there's nothing organized to educate them as to what's happening. It's not that there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on. It's not like there's really evil things happening. It's just there are things happening and they don't know what they are and no one is taking the time to tell them.
Yeah.
And they're not asking.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that they know to ask sometimes too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. On one hand, it's sort of like if Henry Ford had done if Henry Ford had done a focus group, the focus group would have said, I want a better horse.
Right.
So people don't know what they don't know. And it just became a mission for me it is my mission. It's still my mission to eradicate that. It really bothers me. It bugs me.
I can relate to that. I ended up in the world of web development for several years, owning a business doing that. And I came in from the standpoint of knowing a lot about tech, but not knowing a lot about code, and learned the code along the way and everything like that. But I always approached it from the standpoint of we're solving customers' problems. We're not building another website. we're solving their problems. And I had conversations with our team throughout the years where we had like a really big team doing this, and it was so interesting. Well, that's not the way you're supposed to do it. I'm like, well, who sets that standard for the status quo? And should we hold that party line, as you called it, or should we push into the unknown and explore other possibilities? And I love that that's what you're doing through your book, through your approach to real estate. I think that's a brilliant thing to be rethinking that. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the lies or some of the perceptions that so many people walk into when they go buy a house and how it actually hurts them.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you just look at the overall process that a person uses to choose a realtor, let's just start with that.
Yeah.
Mostly the logic, the thinking, the methodology in choosing a realtor is identical methodology to you choosing where you want to eat dinner.
Yeah.
You want to eat dinner, you're either going to go to Yelp and look at reviews on a website.
Done that before, yes.
Yeah, or you're going to ask for a recommendation from a friend.
Yep.
Or you're going to go with you're starving, so you're just going to go to the first place you see that looks clean.
Yep.
Or you're going to go with the restaurant that you've seen a lot of ads for, and you're going to go give it a try because you've seen them all the time. Okay, that's fine. That's a $50 meal, and you probably do that 100 times a year.
Okay.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, so you're and you're whatever old you are, so you've done that a whole bunch, and it's and the worst thing, and you've had a bad meal here or there, and it cost you $30 or whatever, right?
Right, for sure.
Okay, except when you're going to go choose a realtor, people do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They're going to go to stars on a website and look at reviews like Zillow, or they're going to ask a friend for a recommendation. Or they're gonna, they're starving, so they're just gonna use the first thing they see. They're gonna hit the first, Redfin agent that shows up, right? Or they'll go for the discount meal.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same methodology, which is insane because a house is I don't know what houses cost where you are, but in Seattle, the median price is $700,000. The median price across the country is $250,000. So it's $250,000 minimum, maybe close to $1 million, depending on where you are. So it's anywhere between $250,000 and $1 million purchase or sale, $250,000, and you do it once every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're going to use the same methodology that you use to choose to eat dinner as to choose who's going to represent you. That makes no sense.
Okay.
That's like nuts.
Yeah.
Right. And most people's response to my saying that is it is nuts, but what's the option, right? What else can you do?
Well, that's the question that was in the back of my mind. Yeah. What is the alternative?
Okay. Now this is going to sound so stupidly simple. Okay. But it is the answer. Okay. When you go sell a house, what's your goal in selling a house? What do you want when you sell a house?
Well, to get the most money that I can get out of it.
Totally, right? That's universally the answer, right? Most money, least time, least hassle, in that order, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Everyone says that. So good. So why this is like the number one thing you could do. You could actually, this is going to be shocking, you could interview agents.
Okay.
But I mean interview. No, but I mean like interview them. I've had people talk to me, but I've interviewed for jobs, and I sit down at a table with someone and they ask me a series of questions that they have asked everybody.
Right.
Right. Like the guy that goes into Starbucks to get a job as a barista, or the guy at Burger King there's an interview. No one interviews an agent. They might talk to a couple of people, but they don't interview them with a set series of questions. And if you want the most money in the least time, here's the question you could ask. Hey, show me your last 12 months of sales. I want to see how much over asking price you've gotten homes for.
Yeah.
Or under asking price. I want to see what percentage of asking price you've sold homes for. Show me your last 12 months of sales. And they will have to produce for you their last 12 months of sales. And if you did that for 5 people look, I'm not saying don't go with your best friend's cousin. I'm not saying don't go with the guy on Zillow. Those could be the best ones.
But do the due diligence.
Do a little bit of due diligence. Ask every one of them to show you their last 12 months of sales and see what they say.
Okay.
4 out of 5 of them won't know it off the top of their head, first of all. They'll know
Yeah.
how much they sold. They'll know like their number of units or the dollar volume, which is
Yeah.
fantastic for them. But it doesn't say anything
Right.
about how much money they put in the pockets of their customers. And they know they don't
Right.
need to know that information because no one's ever going to ask them for it. So that's just like the stupid, simple, basic, show me your last 12 months of sales, please. If you were hiring anyone for anything, you would ask them that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I've heard that for real estate agents, and I don't know if this is true because I'm not a real estate agent, but I've heard that their goal is to sell the house as quickly and for as much money as they can get out of it, but to turn it quickly and get through the number of units in most cases, not to do the best, not to leave it on the market, but to turn the revenues, because the longer they have to invest into that property to sell it, the less money they make. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you just do the math. So I'm a big proponent of math. Okay. I think math works.
Yeah,
I love math.
Sure.
So yeah, if you do the math, they would, they're getting 3% roughly, depending on where you are, but let's just say it's 3% of the sale price. So the difference for you, if you're the end consumer of $50,000, either way, right, is a lot of money. But for them, it's less, it's less impactful.
Right.
Because that 3% is not going in their pocket,
Right.
by the way. And that's another misconception. It's not like they get all that money.
Right.
They get a fraction of that money, mostly, they split that money a billion ways. So the amount of money so it's really more like 1%. So what's a $50,000 loss for you is a $5,000 loss for them. No, it's a $500 loss for them.
Right.
Because it's just 1% of the overall price. So it's not, they'd rather have the bigger chunk of their money right away.
Yeah.
Get it off the market, be able to promote that they sold it, all that stuff, rather than do it. They don't need to do good work. They just don't need to do good work because no one's ever going to ask them about the quality of work that they do. Because look, if your friend that recommends Bob as the realtor didn't get ripped off by Bob, if the deal didn't go badly, they think they got a great deal. They're fine with Bob. They will definitely refer Bob because Bob didn't rip them off.
Yeah.
They don't have any, and Bob knows that he doesn't have to do a great job. He can do a fast job. Realtors are trained to be fast, not good.
Well, and a fast guaranteed sale is better than a questionable potential sale. If you can close it, that's guaranteed money in their bank. It's not waiting for the potential of something better. It's done.
Totally. And, in all honesty, to have both sides of it, it may in fact be better for you.
Yeah.
As the consumer, a bird in the hand. So it's not like again, I don't think there's a lot of nefarious realtors. I don't think there's a lot of realtors intentionally out to rip people off. I'm not a fear monger.
Right.
Okay. I don't think that's the case. I think realtors are all, for the most part, do have a servant's heart and it's the design of the system is lousy.
Right.
The design, by the system, I mean the way consumers think and operate and the way realtors dance with that. None of it is geared toward realtors doing a better job. Right. And the thing that people don't know about real estate, and this is, again, one of those sort of scary facts that people don't realize is that the person that cuts your hair is trained 10 times longer than your realtor.
Right.
Literally, I'm not making it up. I checked it out. I looked at the state. I had a VA, virtual assistant, go through the state laws on cosmetology and real estate because I wanted to confirm this, and it's true.
Yeah.
1,000 hours for a cosmetology license. So the person at Sports Clip gets $25 to cut your hair, studied for 1,000 hours. The person you're giving the deal to sell your $500,000 house to studied for 2 weeks.
Right. This is crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's out of control. That's the least trained profession in the world is realtors. Least trained profession. You can't get anyone with $2,000 in 2 weeks. And the testing, the actual study of real estate is the most useless testing I've ever seen in my life. It's the most irrelevant. I have to know how many rods are in an acre.
Yeah.
To pass the test. Okay. So that tells you the last time you measured something in rods. Okay,
Right.
you should call me when you start measuring things in rods.
For sure.
So they're poorly trained. They don't get a lot of work, and no one ever talks to them about their performance. And you're going to hire a guy on Redfin because he offers a 1% discount. It's insane. It's insane.
Well, it sounds like one of the things you're really saying is knowledge isn't power, that there's a misconception there of like, oh, this person's the expert, therefore they have the knowledge, therefore they have the power to do the best for me. But that's not always the case, that knowledge isn't good enough. There's other things that we should be looking for.
Yeah, I do think that's I think that's right. I think, you could be on the hunt for what you don't know. Start. I think if people developed that sort of mindset for, well, what's hidden here,
Right.
And that's really why I wrote the book, was to give people sort of a way of stepping back and looking at, what else don't I know here? What else could I know?
Yeah. Well, let's take a moment and talk about the book, because it sounds really cool. It's called Shortchanged by Shortcuts.
Yeah.
And I think often many of us are always looking for the best shortcut, not thinking about how the shortcut could actually hurt us. Tell us about the book, who it's for, and what the reader might gain from that.
Sure. Well, they're shortcuts that people don't even know they're taking. Okay. That's the first part. So it's not like people are intentionally taking shortcuts. They don't know that
it's ignorant.
Yeah, it's ignorance is what it is. But it's not even ignorance. It's more. It really is. It's the shortcuts that I'm talking about are what behavioral economics would call heuristics, or mental shortcuts, or ways the brain is wired to avoid having to work too hard. Okay, so it's a mental shortcut. It's a way of. So, for example, let's see. Gosh, there's so many good ones, but there's a shortcut that we use that was named availability. There's the availability heuristic, meaning if something is available to the mind easily, it's considered and weighted more heavily in the decision than something you have to think hard about.
Yeah.
Okay. So if something's more available to the mind, it weighs more heavily in your decision, which is why things like we invest as a culture, as a society, we invest lots of money in fighting homicide, but not on stomach cancer, even though stomach cancer claims X number of times more people than homicide does. Homicide is more available to the mind. If it's more vivid, it's more clear, it sticks in the mind. It's why when you see a car accident and you're driving down the road, you slow down and you drive more slowly even after you've seen it.
Yeah.
Even though the road conditions are no different than they were prior to seeing it. Yeah. You have the accident more available in your mind, so it weighs more heavily on you.
Right.
It's why advertising works to a large extent, because it occupies mind share.
Yeah.
If I asked you a potato chip, a lot of middle-aged people, if you ask middle-aged people for potato chip, they're going to say Lay's.
Okay.
And if you ask a millennial potato chip, what do you say?
Well, I'm from the Northeast, so I would say Utz or Martin's, which isn't fair.
Which is not fair. But fine.
If I think back to California, I'd probably think of Vic or Cascade or something like that.
Fine, you're going to think of whatever comes to the top of your mind, but you're only going to think of one or two.
Yeah,
and you had to think about more. So the point is, which is why people will go with the realtor that they see a lot of signs in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
which is why a neighborhood agent is appealing to people. Which is why agents spend money farming neighborhoods. That's in fact what an agent calls when they pick a geographical area that they want to work.
Yeah.
A realtor calls that farming. Yeah. That's a farm.
Yeah.
Which people are generally fine with, but they don't understand that makes them the crop.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
It is. Well, if they're farming, what are they farming? They're farming you, man. And you'll use them because I know this neighborhood, as if knowing the neighborhood somehow imparted them with magic powers to get your house sold for more money.
Right.
Which it doesn't. There's nothing to do with it. I could sell a house in New York if I needed to. I'm not licensed there, but the point is, I don't need to know anything about the neighborhood to sell the house there.
Right. Right.
There's no magical information there,
Yeah.
but all that kind of thing. So those are shortcuts. So availability is a shortcut that will use us. It's not that we think we don't even think about it. We have to fight, and availability factors into all the nonsense that, a realtor has to deal with when they start talking to people who have watched HGTV.
The cult of HGTV.
Oh my gosh, like the whole flip this house phenomenon, that
Right.
becomes very vivid, and they think they can remodel a house. And so they want to buy a foreclosed house, even though they don't know which side of a hammer to use.
Yeah.
But the image of being able to do that is strong in their mind, and we have to deal with that. So it cuts both ways.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like one of the best things people can do is detach the emotion or the fears or even the knowledge that they think that they have, whether it's what they experience through watching it on TV or whether it's that realtor that's local and it's, at the forefront of their mind. It sounds like we need to step back and become more rational in the space of house purchasing and really look at it as a commodity and not look at it as such an emotional decision.
Totally. I mean, and there's a place for emotion that, as I write about in the book, when you're buying a home, there's definitely a place for emotion. But for the most part, rationality goes out the window. And look, it's the most expensive thing you own. It's the most emotionally impactful thing you own. You don't touch anything physically more than your house. Nothing is more, there's literally nothing like it. It occupies a unique place in your life, and it deserves a unique process for which to buy or sell it. And most people don't afford it anything unique at all. They, the thing that makes me crazy now is this whole nonsense with Rocket Mortgage. Like somehow getting a loan on my phone is some massively attractive thing for me. Like I'm supposed to get a $500,000 loan on my phone in 2 minutes and think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I can't even say it out loud without getting nauseous about the logic there. I can't buy something on Amazon for more than like $70 if I can't read the refund policy, and then I can't do anything online for that much money. Why would I do that? That's like nuts.
Yeah. Okay. So before we pivot back into the larger picture of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure.
I've got to ask, what are the biggest things that if I'm going out and saying, I'm going to go buy a house right now, I'm in the market, I want to buy the right house for me and my family, what are the questions that consumer should be asking that would set them up for success, to save them money, to get them the best place? Or maybe they're on the flip side and they're selling their house. What are the things that they should be doing that are going to set them up for success, that are not the status quo, that aren't the norms?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, you want to get a rational way to interview realtors. Okay, so you definitely want to get professional representation.
Right.
This is not you think.
So don't do it yourself. Don't go it alone.
It doesn't. I've almost never seen the math on a for sale by owner work out. And the saying, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur. Definitely applies. Yeah. And I would interview 5 or 6 agents with a rational model. And if you wanted one, I'm happy to send that to your listeners for free. I have a little email template that I'm happy to share with anybody who wants it. It's 7 questions they could ask. And if you compared all 7 answers together, you'd get a really rational view about who you want to interview in person. And then go with the guy you like or the gal you like the best. Go with the person you like, no problem, And look, if your Uncle Harry is never going to talk to you again, if you don't use him, at least you'll know how much talking to Harry cost you.
Yeah.
Social capital is real. I think I'm not anti-social capital. You want to hire a kid's soccer coach, good. Hire a kid's soccer coach, but at least know how much you're paying for that.
Yeah. Know the cost of doing that deal that way.
Yeah, you should, know what it's going to cost you, and you can, but for sure. All right. So that's one thing. And then I think the other thing is just operating with the mindset that you're the CEO of a large company with X number of dollars assets. So if your mindset was shifted from, I think there's a mindset already that exists for people around home sales. Like, I'm supposed to know how to do this.
Right.
I'm just supposed to know. And if I'm supposed to know how to do it, I can't ask questions about it.
Right.
If I'm expected to know, like I share I have a little story in the book where, my car needed a new serpentine belt.
Okay.
And I don't know what a serpentine belt is, but I'm a man and I'm supposed to know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really ask the guy. I had to Google it. I didn't have the kind of freedom to ask him. But now my wife doesn't have any of that. I'm supposed to know about that. She doesn't know. She's not supposed to. For her, she's not supposed to know. Right. So she asked me, like, what's a serpentine belt? Now, luckily, I Googled it first, so I could sound like I knew what I was talking about. But I think around home sales, both men and women think they're supposed to know how to do it.
Yeah.
At a couple of clients all the time apologize for asking me questions.
Wow.
And I just think it's nuts. It's like, why would you do you've never done this, or you did this 10 years ago, or whatever. Why would you possibly think you're supposed to know how this goes? I'm here to answer questions. That's my job.
Yeah.
Answer
You're the
questions.
expert. You're the person that
you're paying me. I'm your coach. This is exactly what you're supposed to ask me. So, so I think those are, so if you organized yourself in the context of being the CEO and you have a commodity to sell called a house, or you are looking to purchase a commodity, right? Which is really different than finding your home. No, you're going to buy a commodity. It's a house. You're going to sell a commodity. You're not selling your home. No one wants to buy your home. They want to buy a house.
Right.
You need to sell a house. Get detached emotionally from it. There's CEO. This is a business transaction. I think that context would empower people to really be able to ask the right questions and take different actions.
You mentioned being the CEO of your house, whether it's to buy or sell or your own assets. Entrepreneurship for a lot of people opened doors of having that control back in their life to make the choices that they want. Yes, they have customers, and yes, they work for those customers. Yes, they have products, and they answer to those people that they sell their products to. But in a lot of ways, it allows people to live on their terms. What are some of the things that, when you change that perspective of just living and surviving into taking control back, running your life as you would run a business, or running your life in a way in such that you get to live on your terms, how does that change of perspective really set people up to have that larger entrepreneurial success?
Yeah, well, you're no longer the victim of anything. Inside that context, you're cause of the matter of anything that comes up. If it comes up, it's yours. You own it. It's not your fault. You just get to own it.
Yeah.
And you get to have a say about it. You get to take an action that you weren't going to take. If you're the victim of something, are there actions that you can take? Do you see actions naturally when you're the victim? No. If you're the victim of something, you're just the victim of it. You have to sort of dance with it. But if the joy of being an entrepreneur is, this is mine. This is my creation. Yeah. It's true, I have customers, but I'm causing the matter of making them happy.
Right.
Which I know
you have the ownership. Over
exactly.
Everything.
Over everything. And that's a really big deal. I think that sets people up, to really win or really lose. Frankly, when, we've all dealt with businesses where the person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the scenario, whatever it was, the other side of the desk clearly didn't own the business.
Right.
And it was like, really, this is really, I have to fill this out in triplicate. Yeah. Really? No one thought this through. Yeah. No one owns my experience here. Yeah. And it's horrible. Yeah. It's just like, really? Come on, man. So
that's good. How can someone find or connect with you?
Rationalrealestate.pro.
Okay.
Is the best. They can get access to my book. My email is aaron@rationalrealestate.pro.
Cool. And how can they find your book?
Right there at rationalrealestate.pro, or they can go right to Amazon. It's on Amazon. Shortchanged by Shortcuts is on Amazon.
We'll have all of those links in the episode notes. And in a moment, we'll be back with our rapid fire questions and more with Aaron Hendon. For you, the listener of the Jumblethink podcast, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to try out their services. FreshBooks is the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help freelancers, small business owners, and entrepreneurs to get organized, save time, invoicing, and get paid faster. FreshBooks is built to support the needs of growing businesses just like yours. On average, customers double their revenue in 24 months. FreshBooks can also help you spend less time on the boring tasks like paperwork, invoicing, and reconciling your expenses, and freeing you up so you can spend your time on the parts of the business you love. To learn more about FreshBooks or to start your free 30-day trial, just go to www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. That's www.gofreshbooks.com/jumblethink. I am back with Aaron Hendon. Aaron, are you ready for our rapid fire questions?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's dive in.
Okay.
The first question is, what is one tip you would give someone with a big idea and dream and they don't know where to start?
Good. The tip is start.
Okay.
Just start anywhere. It doesn't matter where. If it turns out you started in the middle, you'll find out, but you'll only find out after you started.
Yeah.
All right. You can't possibly know anything about anything until you start.
Yeah. Don't wait to be perfect. Just get in there and get dirty.
Get dirty, and then you'll figure it out. It's the only way to do it.
What is one change you would like to see in the world?
I'd love to see people operating from their heart.
Okay.
You know, just a heart, compassion. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to say it, but any way you say it, it's the same. It's, you know, I think compassion is sorely missing.
Good point. Very good point. What do you want your legacy to be?
I'd like someone to say that I empowered them to fulfill on what they wanted.
Oh, that's cool. Where do you find inspiration?
Well, with my wife and my children, I find inspiration in music. I find inspiration in nature. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's a wide range of stuff right there. But
there it is. That's good. That's good. What music? Just out of curiosity.
A lot of Grateful Dead.
Okay.
A lot of Frank Zappa, jazz, funk, blues.
What's one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read, and why?
Well, so entrepreneurs, I think entrepreneurs are different than dreamers.
Okay.
I think entrepreneurs are doing it, and dreamers can just dream and not take action.
Yeah.
So I'm more in the entrepreneur camp. I think if you're an entrepreneur without a dream, it's a little bit lousy, but you could certainly, you know.
You can be one without the other, but when you marry the two together, it becomes very powerful.
If you're an entrepreneur, you must read Profit First.
Okay.
Michael Michalowicz, Profit First. It'll have your business be profitable where nothing else will. It's absolutely a must read.
Cool. What is one tool that is significant for the success of your business?
The phone.
Okay.
But really, like picking up the phone and calling people, not texting, not emailing. I mean, texting and emailing is great. I do it a lot, but the phone, call, dial, talk to someone. And, you know, and I think as we get into the younger generations, it becomes less and less used.
Right.
Like my kids won't call anybody ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Just call, but they won't.
Yeah. What is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
Get up early.
Okay.
And getting, you know, started. I get so much done between 5 and 8. It's crazy.
Speaking of which, how do you start and finish your day?
At least 2, maybe 3 days a week. I work out.
Okay.
I start with writing, reading, you know, whatever work I don't want to get done that day. I try and start with that. Okay. And then I finish my day with, you know, anything that wasn't done today gets put in a calendar slot for wherever the calendar slot's open. Okay. But I don't generally work off to-do lists. It has to be in my calendar.
If you weren't doing what you were doing today, what would you be doing?
I don't know. I can't even imagine if I wasn't doing. It's like I would have wings and I would be fly. I don't know. It's like if I weren't who I am, what would I be doing? I have no idea. You know, is that question like, what else could I do? Like, what?
It's however you want to
All right, fine.
interpret it.
So great. All right, good. So if I weren't, then I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay with my answer there, Michael.
I think it's a beautiful answer.
Idea. Yeah, I have no idea. I can't imagine what I would do.
What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I have a 7-year plan. So again, with dreams, I'm goal oriented, but
Right.
the goal is 6 years to go, but becoming a speaker and a coach of people in terms of empowering them nationwide and buying and selling their home and having the conversations that we had today, but on a national scale, talking to, large groups of people to really wake people up as to what the options are in the process. So empowering people to act on what they don't see right now around buying or selling their home.
Before we go, do you have one last thought you want to leave us with?
Well, I am really grateful for you to
thanks.
have set this up and to, have done this so professionally and so clearly, and to do it so consistently inside clearly a servant's heart for making a difference for people. I don't know if people really do need to know there's no money in podcasting. It's not like no one taking this to the back. So this is just a labor of love to empower people. And I'm really grateful for that. And then I'm really grateful for anyone who made it this far. Oh my God, that anyone who made it through this length of time listening to us ramble on. That's quite impressive that you allowed us to make that difference with you. So I'm grateful for that opportunity as well.
Aaron, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing us some insights of conversations that we need to be having more of, and conversations that really make us question the status quo and push us into something better. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it myself.
Once again, we want to thank today's guest, Aaron Hendon, for taking time out and sharing some insight into the world of an entrepreneur and the world of real estate in general. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I would definitely encourage you to go check out his book, Shortchanged by Shortcuts. Very cool book, and I think you'll really enjoy it. On Thursday, we're back with another episode. I'm going to be giving you some insights into being a dreamer and having big ideas and then making them happen. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure to come back and check out that episode this Thursday. It is such a privilege to have you along for our podcast. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, swing on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Click that follow or subscribe button. That way you can catch up on past episodes and never miss another episode in the future. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with one last thought. It comes from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Such an amazing quote. I love it. And I want to encourage you. Your dream, your big idea is beautiful. No matter what you've been told, that big idea, that big dream is needed. This world needs more people willing to take the risk and step out in faith to see their idea and dream come true. So go out there today, do something, whether it's big or small, to move that idea and dream forward. Thanks again for tuning in, and until our next episode, go out there and do something to change the world.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.